Like, would it be possible and what would it look like to find happiness and to be okay with it? Not that I condoned it, but just to go, yeah, like I got to accept what's in front of me. And what I started to do was I forced myself to stop thinking about the past, and I refused to allow myself to think about the future. And I made myself be in the present moment.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're in the present moment, I mean, every spiritual practice, right, tells you be present. Out of necessity, I brought myself to the present. And that's when I started to observe my thought patterns. That's when I started to see these emotions and these thoughts. I'm like, this isn't helpful. No, stop. No, go away. No, I'm going to refocus over here on this. And I started to just think about not what I couldn't do, but what I could do. And I started to say, okay, in this exact moment, what could I do right now that would make me
of the most audacious podcast the internet has to offer? You've got it locked to the Audacious Living Podcast, and as always, it's an absolute pleasure to be here and continue our ongoing goal of helping our listeners live their best audacious lives ever. This is episode 216 of the podcast, and I'm absolutely pleased to welcome Danielle Matthews to this episode. You see, Danielle shares an ordeal that she had to endure when she was involved in a car accident with a drunk driver. The accident had a massive impact on her life, robbing her of her health. And despite being fine physically, Danielle had sustained an injury to her brain that left her not being able to concentrate for extended periods. She couldn't handle the input from light or noise and was having trouble getting the words out, as well as dealing with severe migraines. After the doctors told her her body had done all the healing it would, and she would have to accept her new normal and shape her life around that, Danielle had a very serious decision to make. She could continue feeling sorry for herself and embrace that victim mindset, or stop and recognize that unfortunate things do happen in our lives and think about how she was going to take that tragedy and turn it into triumph. It really is a wonderful chat that I think you'll all appreciate. So without any further ado, here's my conversation with Danielle Matthews. Enjoy. Here joining me on the Audacious Living Podcast, it is a pleasure, and again, I appreciate you making the time like this.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Very good, very good. So we here on this podcast, we're always talking with different ways to encourage people to step in their boldness and be audacious and take risks and do all these wonderful things that we can go out and affect the world in such a positive way. And sometimes, every so often, there's this thing called adversity that comes along, the other A word, and that slightly throws us off our path or detours us ever so slightly. And it's the ability to sort of get past that and get through that is really what we're charged with and what our responsibility. And you certainly would understand a lot about that and getting through adversity, given the accident that you were part of. And maybe perhaps as a starting point, Danielle, we can get you to expand on your story a little bit.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. And it's interesting. I think the obstacles that get put in front of us, I don't know about you, but oftentimes I have seen that they're actually what helps us then become the next version of ourselves to help us step into that audacious goal or whatever it is that we're going for.
Yes.
It was certainly true with me, and I have found it to be true time and time again. So, my story really starts when I was in my 20s. I was hit by a drunk driver when I was 23. And in that car accident, just completely lost my health. I physically looked fine, but I had sustained an injury to my brain, and it left me not able to concentrate for extended periods. I couldn't handle input from light or noise. I would have trouble getting the words out that I wanted to. I was dealing with severe migraines and, attempted to go back to work because they had said to me, well, it should clear like in a month. Mm-hmm. And it was impossible. I was teaching at the time, sixth grade, and I couldn't remember the words I just said. I couldn't remember the names of the kids. Like, it was a mess. And I went on a medical leave, came back after that, and still it was no better, and ultimately lost my job, which meant I had to move back home with my family because I had no income. And we did not know when I would get better. The prognosis was kind of, from my neurologist, was, okay, it didn't clear in a month. Let's give it 3 months. Then they said 6 months. And then at my 1 year appointment, I was actually told by my doctor that my body had done all the healing it would do. And this was my new normal. And they told me to just kind of shape my life around that. And I had the audacity to say, no, I am not accepting that as my new normal.
I love
Absolutely not. I was 24 years old and I just thought my life is not going to be one where I'm in a dark room. I mean, we had to put blackout fabric in my bedroom. Like I couldn't handle sunlight. And I thought there's no way this is going to be my life. I'm going to figure something out. But there was definitely the emotional roller coaster I had been on, I knew I needed to handle because my physical health, we were searching, we were looking, and I was going to continue to look till I found something. But I was depressed. I was dealing with a lot of anxiety. And I thought, if my physical symptoms might be here for a little while longer, I have got to get my mind and my emotions under control because I'm miserable inside of myself. And I realized that my emotions were making me miserable. And I actually had a choice about the emotions that I was going to feel, which, for some, they're like, yeah, of course. For others, maybe you've never thought about it like that. I had not up until that point. And to me, that was part of the gift of my accident, was that it made me realize, hang on a second. You are more than your thoughts. You do not need to be absorbed by every single thought or every single emotion that comes storming in. I think before in life, it had kind of just taken me all over the place, whatever was going on. And then I started to create separation. And I started to say, okay, anger's here, but I don't have to engage with it. Like it can just kind of be here and I can be at peace, watching it rather than letting it go everywhere. And I don't even have to look at it if I don't want to. I can take my attention over here and just let that kind of do its thing. Because ultimately what I've learned with emotions is they just want to pass through. When you finally let yourself cry, it's like, oh man, that feels so good.
That's it.
And it's done.
And it's such a good point, because oftentimes we get caught up in that emotion in that moment and we're not thinking of an endpoint. We're just almost like being in a storm, right? You're in the midst of a storm and all you can think about is the house flying or the cows flying and I'm in a storm, right? But really the reality is it doesn't last forever and it's really about enduring or outlasting it.
Yes. And realizing too, I've studied a lot of Eastern philosophy, yogic philosophy, and that was part of the healing that I needed because Western medicine had kind of, in my opinion, failed me. They were not offering solutions. Right. So we started looking wide. And what was interesting with kind of the yogic traditions, they look at the body as a vessel and they say, okay, every experience is energy and it has to flow through. So, things happen in our life when we're kids or something like what happened to me. Traumas can happen, intense things that we either are too young to know what to do with it, or it's so overwhelming, like in my case, it had totally flipped my world upside down that it was too much to process at once. So we put a block up. And what the yogis say is that energy of that experience, maybe it's the death of a loved one, it's a natural disaster, right? Whatever it is, it was just needing to flow through, but we blocked it. And when we block it because we can't handle it, we often just kind of shove it down. It doesn't go away. And what the yogis say is that energy just starts to kind of build in on itself. And they claim that it actually solidifies into something solid. They call it a grunty, an energy knot, and it gets lodged somewhere in your body. And I always tell people, just bounce this off your own experience. Could this be true? Do you notice when you're stressed out that you feel it in a certain place in your body?
Right. And
for me, it's like my lower left back. Like that, when I start to notice that, I'm like, okay, I'm doing too much. Like my back's talking to me. It used to, when I was younger, it was my stomach, like different parts talk to people. What the yogis say is, yeah, that's that energy experience, that's experience. So there are ways that I started to learn to help, it's like emotional release. It's to help these things to flow through, to kind of stop being this iceberg, in your body. It can melt down and flow through. And it's a beautiful thing. Right. And I love it because it's like the yogis don't say you don't need to get into the story. It's not like talk therapy in the West where psychotherapists are really, go into the story and, dig up all this stuff again. To me, that's like semi-traumatizing all over again. Versus if you can just say, well, the issue is that there's blocked energy. And if I can let that flow through my body, I don't need to pick through the trash as I take it out. I just like, get the trash out of here. Flow that thing through.
Right. And it's just, I think like the power of the release, right? Just being able to release it and let it go through. And then I think what also happens is you once it gets, the other side, you can actually look at it and see it and understand and why that's so important, being able to see it, is because then you could recognize it when it comes again, because it will come again.
Yes. And I love that you said that, because it's so true. Like once it's released, the emotional charge is gone. And now you can observe it kind of as a neutral observer without all of the energy that was attached with it, all of the emotional intensity that was attached with it. And you can kind of observe and go, what lesson did this teach me? Because in my experience, if I don't learn the lesson from the difficulty, it will happen again. And, I saw it in myself and partners that I was choosing. Like I was not seeing my own worth, and therefore I was choosing people. This is completely subconscious. And it was all different types of different scenarios, but all of them were basically validating that I wasn't worth more. Okay. And that I wasn't good enough for a certain thing. And it was like, once I finally realized that this was something that like I was holding on to from who knows what that got lodged in there when I was little. I don't know. Like I said, I don't like to go into the details of it, but when I realized this, it freed it up for me to see the pattern and to go, oh, Danielle, like you had an opportunity again and again and again and again to learn this. And like you weren't learning. But if you can look at the experiences, and so many people hate to feel bad, like they don't like that feeling. And so they avoid it. They don't want to think about a tough time. But I believe like the tough times teach us, that's when you really start to learn things about yourself. And it really helps you to have more self-awareness. I believe it brings you more confidence as you start to understand, the dynamics within you, and that these challenges and obstacles were actually teaching you, more about yourself. And then you don't repeat it. It's like, okay, you've learned the lesson. Now you're going to cycle into the next phase of your life. And we're on a human journey. So there's always going to be more lessons, but new ones. But you don't have to keep banging your head against the same one.
No, and sometimes we need that, right? To kind of go through it, to experience, to feel it, to recognize, like I said, to be able to see it, know what it is for the next time. And so that's key. I wonder if we could talk about sort of what your next steps were. So you made that decision. No, I'm not accepting my, your decided fate for my life, right? I've not accepted it. What was the next steps for you?
So I had to really figure out how to master my own mind, because that I knew was causing me problems. It was my emotional state. It was how I was choosing to interact and react to my reality. And I really, I didn't understand what I was doing at the time, but now I've been able to put it in a way I think that'll make sense to a lot of people. I basically understood this equation. Like you've got the external world, and then you have your internal response to it. And that equals your reality. And so what I started to do was I started to realize like my internal response to my accident has been one of a victim mentality. I have been feeling like it shouldn't have happened. I didn't deserve it. Why me? All of these things that maybe they're valid, no one deserves to get hit by a drunk driver, but it wasn't like my reality was one where I felt disempowered. I felt like I had no control over the situation. I couldn't change anything. And I was feeling depressed and anxious. And so I thought, okay, Danielle, you've got to reassess this whole situation. And now let's think about it as, well, the accident has happened. The brain injury is here. You've lost your job. You've lost all these friendships, but that's the reality that's in front of you. So there's new rules on life now. How can you be with this? Like, would it be possible, and what would it look like to find happiness and to be okay with it? Not that I condoned it, but just to go, yeah, like I got to accept what's in front of me. And what I started to do was I forced myself to stop thinking about the past, and I refused to allow myself to think about the future. And I made myself be in the present moment. Mm-hmm. And when you're in the present moment, I mean, every spiritual practice, right, tells you be present. Out of necessity, I brought myself to the present. And that's when I started to observe my thought patterns. That's when I started to see these emotions and these thoughts. I'm like, this isn't helpful. No, stop. No, go away. No, I'm going to refocus over here on this. And I started to just think about not what I couldn't do, but what I could do. And I started to say, okay, in this exact moment, what could I do right now that would make me happy? And for a long time, it was like nothing, right? I had this nasty little voice, nothing, life's terrible, blah, blah, blah. That was the reality. But I just kept asking myself the question. And eventually it was like, well, you could go on a walk. Well, you could read a book. Well, you could cook something like a new recipe. And you could hang out with your grandparents. Like, they don't mind sitting in a dark room. They'll talk to you all day long. And so all of a sudden, like, these little answers started to come. And I started to do those things, and I started to act on it. And I started to pull myself out of this pit that I had been in emotionally. And I started to bring happiness into my life again, and joy. And I started a gratitude journal where I insisted that I write something I was grateful for every single day to rewire my brain, because my brain was so focused on all the things I couldn't do, all the things that weren't happening, that once I made it focus on, hey, like, that strawberry was delicious in your salad today. Like, aren't you lucky that you got a strawberry? Like, yeah, I'm lucky I got a strawberry, and it just totally changed my vibration.
I was gonna say, I do love that, because of the fact that you can focus on the smallest things and find gratitude and appreciation of that, right?
Yes.
A wonderful exercise to go through.
Yeah. And it's like, to me, that's the secret of life. And as I studied these yogic teachings, these kind of came later on, but the reason I think I resonated so much with these Eastern philosophies and this ancient wisdom is, like, my life experience validated what they were teaching. And one of the things the yogis say is, if there was a single truth that, if known, would solve everything, what would that truth be? And what they come to is that the truth of knowing that you are more than your thoughts. If you realize this, you solve all problems. And when I heard that teaching and I kind of ran it past my own experience, I went, that was it. Like, that was the crux of me learning how to overcome my accident and all the depression and the anxiety, is when I realized, whoa, wait a minute. I am more than my thoughts. Like, I don't actually have to engage with the anxious thought. I don't have to, I can watch it. I can observe it. I'm the one that's here before, during, and after all of those emotions, and then I really opened up to those teachings, because I thought, man, they get it, and I got it too. And I saw how it shifted my world entirely. I mean, it just brought me to, like, happiness again, which to me, that's what we all want in life. If we can be happy, you're doing great. And I just, I've really loved now going deeper into some of those teachings and that wisdom. And I love that they have tools, like, they've created techniques to help people access the space behind their thoughts, because so many people's minds are just chatty, and they can't quiet it down. They can't access that space. But with guided meditation, with these other techniques, it's like, no, like, these were actually tools designed to help you get there.
I love it. I do love the internal talk too, right? The self-talk that we give ourselves to help us get to that right place. And so when we're obsessed with the past, that's kind of where depression comes from. But if you're thinking about the future, you're anxious. But if you stay in the moment and you remind yourself, hey, stay in this moment, enjoy this moment, it just comes that much easier to cope.
Yeah, it does. It's like, that's the secret, because the reality is, like, you can't control a lot of the future, and there's nothing you can do about the past, but sit in the present moment, learn from it, and then trust yourself. Like, to me, the future is being created right now. Like, the thought that you're having now is attracting into your life something. And so if you're not conscious about what that thought is, you're either going to be attracting more of what you hated from your past, or you're going to have shifted it, like I did, from what can't I do to what can I do. And now I started to attract in all these different new things that I could do. And I don't think people realize that, the future is now. It's right now. You're planting seeds for it right now. Like, a tree is going to grow from what you're thinking right now. Mind your thoughts, because that's what matters.
Do you, I absolutely agree with you. And would you say, when you sort of look at, keys for overcoming adversity or obstacles, that's one of the key things you can do to manage them?
To me, I look at a challenge, an obstacle, and I always say, what is this making possible? And I think the quality of your life is going to be a reflection of the quality of the questions that you ask. And so if you look at an obstacle and you give it this context of, okay, this is a gift from the divine. This has been put in front of me for a reason. This is about to teach me a massive lesson. What am I supposed to be learning? I have found that the antidote is always inside of the obstacle. Like, you have to go through it in order to get to the other side. You can't go around it. It'll just get bigger and it'll keep blocking you because it's a lesson. I think about it like it's test day, right? You have arrived at a point in your life where there's been a massive obstacle put in front of you, a massive, challenge, this adversity. And it's because this is the test. This is where you get to apply all the things that you've learned up to this point, and where you also get to learn new things that you have, because you need to unlock those pieces of yourself in order to take you to the next level, in order to then, go where you're supposed to be going and continue to live on purpose and continue this becoming process. And I think so many people, they look at hard challenges and things in life and they shy away from it. And I always say, think about it like the gym. You go to the gym to work out. You always pick up heavier and heavier weights because they'll break your muscles down more so you can get stronger. But life is doing the same thing, and people run from challenges. They run from the hard things. And I'm like, you're never going to be mentally, emotionally, and spiritually strong then. Right. You have to go through the tough things. You have to be broken down in order to grow stronger. That's the concept of post-traumatic growth. It's like, you've got to take the trauma, allow it to break you, because that's what these things do. That's what happened with me. And then put the pieces back together in a way that now you're stronger and you go, wow, I'm so grateful that happened to make me realize what I'm actually really, truly capable of.
I love the expression post-traumatic growth. I love that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a good one. Because it does say that there's growth on the other side. There's the ability to move beyond the trauma on the other side of it. But you've got to go, as you said, you've got to go through. It's in the middle there, and I think that's a really good analogy, even good image, right? Like I think of like you're on your pathway and there's a boulder on your path, right? But what do you got to do? You got to get past that. You got to get through it, because on the other side, there's all sorts of wonderful things are. And so the expression that we've used oftentimes is, on the other side of the adversity is where your greatness lies. You just got to go get it.
Yes, you do. And you have to realize, like, the person you are now is not that great person. Like, you have to become, and the becoming process can be painful because you have a lot of lessons to learn, and you've got to, it's just like working out. You're sore the next day, but it's a good kind of sore. Yes. It's the same with adversity and challenges. Like, it's a good breaking down of you. And I think not enough people understand the concept of post-traumatic growth. I think it's not talked about. Our society seems to be obsessed with talking about PTSD. And to me, that keeps people stuck in the trauma. Mm-hmm. And if we could instead, and rather than saying, I'm so sorry for you, and that's such a terrible thing you went through, and of course you have trauma related to that, I'm not taking that away from anybody. I went through my own PTSD after my accident. I get it. It's a very real emotion, but it's meant to be moved through. And I think we should be rather than jumping in the hole with the person, right? And, oh, I'm so sorry for you, and this is so terrible. Stand on the edge of the hole and say, wow, you're going through some intense stuff right now, but imagine the person you're going to become. You've got such a powerful lesson in front of you right now. Like, life, the divine knows you're ready for it. You're about to become so much more. Let's figure out what this could maybe be teaching you. Let's figure out what you need to release from your past, or what you need to realize you have, or, what's going to support you so that you can come and see this next version of you that's going to grow out of this. That is the community I want to be centered around. That's what I think I would love to see, just humanity embraced for one another, is rather than feeling sorry for people and, it's nice, it comes from a good space, but it's not helpful. It is helpful, though, to kind of raise someone to a different level of expectation and go, wait, this is actually going to be amazing. Let me bring you and see it from my vantage point.
Nice. No, I get, and the way we can offer that help and assistance and guidance is phenomenal. And I mean, and oftentimes what we see happen is, once you go through the experiences and we've got the other side, we almost serve as a beacon or a lighthouse of those who are also in a similar situation. And then the next one can help the next one. And all of a sudden you've got all these helping hands making this world a better place.
Hey, yes, I had a t-shirt on that I put on this morning that said, be a light. And it was a lighthouse. And it's like, I believe that we go through things in life and we're meant to turn around and help people on their journey. Like everybody is at different segments on the same journey, which is a journey of self-awareness. It's a journey of like remembering who we are and the truth of why we're here. And some people are further along on that. And it doesn't mean they're better than, it's not that kind of attitude. It's just, oh, I could offer some people some insight that's going to help accelerate them getting at least to this phase where I am. And then you can look for people that are further down the path and say, how the heck did you get there? What do you know that I don't know? And are you willing to teach me? And I have found, as I kind of go through this evolution of my own soul and my own journey, that people that are ahead of the path, they're so willing to support. They're so willing to help. People that have had success, they're like, man, I've been there, right? There's dips in business. There's dips in life. Remember, it all cycles. So often I'm reminded of the law of polarity, where I'm just reminded again and again, things will swing equal and opposite. If you're down right now, don't worry about it. You're supposed to be learning a lesson. It's going to swing into the opposite. Get ready for the swing. Get strong now because you're going to need that strength for when things are really kind of pumping and going strong in your business. So, there's so much perspective that we gain on this path and that we can get from one another. And your show is one of those where it's like you're offering people these nuggets, these insights, and it's going to reach the right ears, that need to hear it with where they're on and what next step they can take on their journey.
Exactly. And so thank you for that. It gives me such a charge just to hear, about your story and how you overcome. So I'm wondering what was, how do I ask differently? How do you know when you got to the other side of your trauma?
Well, I think when we got a phone call about a biotech discovery that a woman that knew my mom, she was an acupuncturist. She called her and she said, I think I've come across something that can help Danielle. And looking back now, I can see what had happened. I had moved myself into a higher vibrational state, doing all the things I've shared so far. And of course, that's when it was like, oh, she learned her lesson. Now it's time to attract in what she needs for her physical health, right? And that phone call changed my life. That technology, it's something called ASEA Redox. ASEA is the name of the company. The technology is redox signaling. I didn't understand it. I thought it sounded too good to be true, honestly, when I first learned about it. But it's something that it's completely safe. Like it can't hurt you to try, no contraindications. So I started using it. And what it did was it stimulated communication with my cells. Okay. And all of a sudden, my cells that were damaged were now able to kind of have a much louder call for help. So everything that had gone on in my brain and all that damage that was in my brain, all of a sudden my body was like on high alert, like, oh, there's a big issue up there. It had been like, it's like having 1 bar of service on your cell phone. Like the call for help had been trying to go out, but there was no signal. Now there's 5 bars of service. It's like, oh, shoot, send the ambulance. So within 3 months of using that, my migraines, like that, I had a migraine since the day of my accident, and we're 2 years post-accident at this point. Wow. They disappeared. I started to be able to concentrate again. I started to have energy again. And it was like, I started to get my health back. Right. And I started to be cautiously optimistic, right? Because, there was a part of me that had been like, okay, I got to figure out how to manage life with these symptoms for a while. And as they started to go away, I was like, wait, is this real? Do I get to feel good again? Yes. And it was real and it stayed. And now it's been, that was 2014. So, coming on 9 years. Amazing. And it was interesting because after all of that, things started to make sense where I went, okay, well, what do I want to do now? Yes. And my mom saw it before I did, but she said, Danielle, take a look at this. You've got a degree in biology. Yep. So you understand science. Yep. You taught for 2 years. I did Teach for America. So it's like a 2-year segment. They teach you how to teach. And she goes, if you just came through this massive trauma that you weren't supposed to get better from, but this biotech discovery helped you. She goes, I think you're meant to teach people about this biological discovery. And I was like, really? And she said, well, yeah. And the company, it's a network marketing company. So it's word of mouth. I was kind of skeptical about that whole thing. But my mom said, Danielle, just you don't know what you don't know. Just go check them out and see if this resonates with you. And I said, all right, fine, fair. And it was like, I sat in this room at this conference in the back, because I was like, I'm going to leave if I want to, I was totally not in. And I had goosebumps from head to toe for 8 hours the first day of this conference. And I'm getting them now because it was like, when you're in the exact right place, the exact right time, it's like the stars align and you're like, it's so clear. It became crystal clear what I was supposed to do. And I left there and I went, I'm meant to tell the world about this stuff. And then reality set in, which was like, Danielle, you don't have a network. You have nobody to talk to. You don't know how to do business. You're a teacher and a biologist. Like, what are you doing? But I didn't listen to my mind and I didn't listen to the probability of failure. I kept thinking possibility. And I kept thinking, no, my soul is telling me you went through this for a reason. You need to help other people. And so I figured it out. And we're now 8 years on from that decision. I've helped thousands of people. It's reached people globally. And it's like, wow, like to have the audacity to think I could do it and then to do it. It's like, my confidence is through the roof. And now I feel that I can guide other people into step into the impossible. I'm like, anything is possible when you put your mind to it.
I love it. Anything is possible. Put your mind to it. That's a great line. And we'll have to title the podcast that. That'll be the title of this week's podcast episode. But one of the things that you also did was write a book. Tell me about the book. It's called Mind Control, right? Is that right?
Yeah, Mind Control. It's all in your head. So it's an ebook. It's free. Anybody can download it. It's really the bullet points on the 4 big steps that I took to get my mind right. And then realizing the ability, once you have that, to create your world from the inside out, which is what I feel that I've done, right? When I made the internal decision, I'm going to create this, and then the world responded and I was able to. So I walk people through, you have to learn to master your mind before you can manifest what you want in the external world. Like one has to come before the other. And that book is that, and people, the link is there to just be able to download it. I love the title, Mind Control. It's all in your head because there's like a double entendre there and there's so much to it, but everything really is in your own mind. And whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. And I would really encourage people. It's a quick read, but profound.
Amazing. Danielle, this is just so awesome. The way you, again, off the top, we talk about what we can do with adversity, and you've taken, something that, life altering, and you've turned it around upside on its head and turned it into something special. And again, not just special for yourself, but the impact you've had on others. So congratulations. So awesome. Thank you. Appreciate you being here. For our listeners who want to connect with you and learn more about the work that you do, where could we send them?
I'd say Instagram. Instagram's the best place. It's me on that platform, so you can send me a direct message there. I've got links in my bio for guided meditation for free if you want to try that. Some of this yogic philosophy I was talking about, the redox signaling that I work with. If you've just got questions, if you need support, reach out. You're not in this alone. I genuinely want to help. Whatever step I can help you take, I'm here to help. And the ebook, of course, is there as well.
Cool. Danielle, thank you for doing this again. This is awesome. All the best. And again, congratulations on the great job.
Oh, well, thank you for having me on. And it was an honor.
Hey, Danielle, thank you for Audacious Living Podcast.